So it's currently the end of March and we're just going into April, and I'm going to start our tomatoes off now. However, you must have a frost-free area. Do not try and pot your tomatoes early if you can't guarantee and protect them from frost. If you want to sow them, grow them outside, you need to wait till the middle of May before you can set them off. We're in Dorset in the middle of May. So I've chosen a sunny area that's frost-free, and we're going to get started. First thing I'm going to do is look at the different types of tomato. When you pick your own tomatoes in the middle of summer, they taste so much better than anything that you can buy in the supermarkets. They just have got so much more flavour, and it's a joy to do. And I always feel a bit disappointed when we go into October, November, and our cropping is finished and we have to go back onto shop bought tomatoes for the winter. So when you've got all this wonderful range that we've got here at Holme of tomatoes, and this is just a small selection that I've brought down here this afternoon, when you've got that wonderful selection, why would you grow all the same type? I cannot see any point in growing tomatoes from seed unless you grow one pack of seed and your friend grows one pack of seed and another friend grows another pack of seed, and then you can swap seedlings between you to get that variety that you want. If you're in a garden club, that might work as well. But it really makes no sense to me to buy a packet of seed and get 30 of the same variety when you could just buy 4 or 5 different varieties and get a really good selection for the summertime. So the first thing to do is to prep the compost ready to take the plants. So what we've got here is now, this is a Westland grow bag that I've used before in the past and it performed perfectly well. And we've got a new one, Melcourt Sylvagrow, which we've got here. I like this one, but I have a feeling this is going to perform even better. It's a deeper bag, and it's also, it feels a heavier compost. It feels like it's got soil in it, soil base, which like a John Innes compost, and that will help stop it buffering. It'll buffer it from wild pH swings and wild fertilizer changes, and also it'll make it easier to re-wet if it dries out, which it shouldn't do. But and it's also got a greater volume, so I'm pretty sure that this one's going to outperform this one, but I can't be for sure, so we're going to run a bit of an experiment this year on it. Now, this one being a narrower bag, what I've done is I've actually got a tray here underneath it with gravel in it. You see I've put the gravel in the tray there, so that plastic tray has no drainage holes, and that we're going to fill that with water. So what we're going to do is we're going to get the water up to the level of the gravel, but not so high that it goes into the bag. And what will happen is the roots, any water that goes in through here, excess water can drain out into the gravel underneath, and if the roots get through, which they will do, is get through the drainage holes at the bottom, they can just root into the water underneath. So on hot days in the summertime, there'll be a little bit of evaporation coming off the gravel itself, which will keep the humidity up around the plants, and also it will help with the watering the plants as well. So what we're going to do is just, first thing, we're just going to plump this bag up, just try and get any lumps out of it that might be in there, and fill them there. Just work your way along the bag. Okay, so you can see we just fluff that up a bit. Now I'm just going to put some holes into the bottom of the bag so that it doesn't fill up with water and drown the plants. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put them on the back, I'm going to punch it here, and then I'm going to flip the bag over. Now, if you're growing without a tray, what you can do is actually put the holes in this edge about 1/2 inch up from the bottom. When I flip that over, this will be the bottom of the bag. It'll just leave a wet area at the bottom of the bag, so there's always a moisture in the bag for the plant to use. So that's if you're growing without the tray. Right, so I've punched the holes in the bottom because we are growing in the tray. I'm going to flip it over, level it out, and that's that one prepped up. So on this one, where we haven't got the tray underneath, I'm going to just punch the holes about 1 inch up from the bottom. So I'm just going to go along that edge. And that means right down at the bottom, there'll always be water in the base of the bag there. So that's running along that side. I'm going to do the same on the other side. So if you haven't got any drainage holes it's just going to waterlog and the roots are going to drown as you would do if you were underwater. Okay, so that's the first time the bags are prepped. So I'm going to be using one of these contraptions which will help support the canes for growing the tomatoes up and supporting the tomatoes. We're actually going to plant the plant in there, and we've got this area will become an area where you can water the plant without getting the neck of the plant wet, but that will all seep down into the bag under here. So this little area, dotted line, this perforated area, has got holes in it so the water can drain through there, and that will gradually leak in. So you can fill that up with water before you go to work in the morning, and that will just gradually work its way down into the bag during the day, so it'll give a consistency of water supply during the day. And this little thing is going to break off, and we're going to use that for supporting the canes at the top. So we're going to put one cane in there, one cane in there, one cane in there, and then tie them together with this contraption at the top there. Right, let's see how we use that. So what we're going to do is install this as I've just installed that one. Now I've decided to use just 2 per bag. Now if you're trying to be greedy and frugal, you might try and get 3 in there. It's probably just about room to get 3 in there, but I think the plants will be happier just with 2 in this bag here. So what I'm going to do is put that down. Now you'll see there's serrations there, which you can see. So I'm going to put it where I want it to be, and then I'm going to use those serrations, just go backwards and forwards just to cut through the bag. And now I've got some perforation marks there. I'm just going to tear that open there and show me the shape of it, and then put that into there. Just square it up. I was a bit over vigorous there, and that's in there. Now we're just going to add a little bit of compost. I don't know whether we can have a look in here. Right, so the first thing we're going to need to do is break this little piece of plastic off. So out it comes. Now that's going to go, the canes are going to go up through here. Bottom of the cane is going to go in there, top of the cane is going to go in through there. So we'll do that in a minute. Let's get the plant planted first. So I've added a little bit of extra compost in. So you'll see now the compost level is here, is higher than the bag there. So that means the crown of the plant is up and dry. Now I haven't filled that to the top, as you can see. And the reason for that, I will explain in a moment. So sorry, I took the plant out there, being very careful. So I'm holding with my fingers across the top of it there to keep the compost from falling off the top of it there. Then I just squeezed it a couple of times just to ease the plastic away from the compost there. And you can see we've got a nice developing root structure around there, and I don't want that to fall apart. So I'm just going to dig a little hole in the middle there, and we're going to put the plant carefully in there and put the compost back around it. And then we're just going to lightly firm that down in, not directly on top of the plant, but around the edges of it. And then that'll bring it up to nice, good contact with those developing roots. Now you can see it's a little bit high there. I don't know whether you can get in there. You can see that soil there is a little bit higher than there. So I just want to bring that all up to the same level. So just add some more compost in and firm that in. Now, the reason I've planted that deep is because my colleague David assures me that if in a few weeks' time we earth up with a little bit more compost, that's going to cause roots to start developing along the trunk, and it will increase production by about 15%. So when we next video it, we'll actually fill that compost up a little bit higher than it is at the moment. So that's that part done. So there's our watering device around the edge here. We're not going to water through the top, except the very first time. We're just going to settle that compost in a minute with some water. But in future, once it's rooted down through and into the bag, we're going to water round here, and it's going to gradually seep into the bag through those holes there. Right, next thing, support. Okay, so just before, the last thing on the planting is we're just going to make sure we put the labels, slide them in there, just in case we need to refer to them at any point. So that's gone in there. And then I'm going to take these are 1.8 metre or 6 foot canes. And I'm just going to take one from the middle, it should pull out, he says, without having to take the string off. not plain, but that's because I've got it the wrong way around. I've got all the thick ends. That's it. So I'm pulling the thin end out. That's fine. So that's just going to slot down through that hole there and all the way down through, and I'm just going to push that right through. I can feel that hitting the gravel now through the bottom. Next one. And the reason we're doing this is because as the plant grows, you need to have support for it. And you'll be surprised how big the tomatoes will get. And you can see now we've got a decent 3 there. And remember that bit of plastic that's we saved earlier. That's just going to go at the top there. So I'm just going to put that over the canes at the top. And that one there. So that will just keep them together and nicely supported. So we've got a structure there. Now what I'm actually going to do, because we're nicely between 2 posts here, is as they start to grow, once the weight comes on these, I'm actually going to put an extra piece of wood between here and bind these to that piece of wood as well, so it's nice and solid, so that we can train our stems, tomato plants up through there. So that's the training process done, and I'll just finish off down here, and then we will do the watering in. So we've finished the planting of the first 3. Now these grow supports, they are in 3 packs of 3, which means I've got 1 space left over, and you can plant direct into the bag here, and that's what we're going to do. So what I'm going to do is, you see it's got a dotted line square there. I'm going to punch in that corner and then go straight across to the other side, and then I'm going to do the same here and go across here to the diagonal. So we've got those flaps now. What I'm going to do is just tuck those back in. And that gives us our compost there, which we're going to go into. So I'm just giving that final loosen up there. And this is, rather than being a climbing type, this one is a bush type that we're going to put in on the end here. Now, some people, you can grow cucumbers like this and various other stuff in here as well, various other vegetables. But we're just doing tomatoes today. So again, I'm just going to put that in just a little bit deeper. And that's it. That's that one done. So then we've just got watering in. Now the purpose of watering in is not to provide too much water for the plant. The first watering in is to settle the compost right up against the roots that is of where the pot was. So we don't leave any air pockets in there. So I'm actually going to take the watering rows off the end of the watering can. So the watering rows, I'm going to take that off the end because I'm actually want to get a stream of water here, and I'm just going to carefully get up here, and then I'm going to water that in. And I'm really going to wet that compost up, and it's going to settle down all that compost in and around right up against the roots. So I'm going to do that for all of them. See, it's draining away quite quickly. Now, I don't want the bags are already moist, so the purpose of it is not to get the whole bag wet because it's already moist enough. It's just settling compost in right up against the roots of the existing plant. I'm just going to do all of that all the way along. Let that flood up. In future, now that that's down, in future, we're not going to water through this hole. We're going to water around the edge here, and that's going to percolate its way through into the bag. That's the only time we're going to ever water it through the top. Every future watering is going to be through this outside edge here. I've just got this little one to do here at the end. So again, the purpose of this is just to settle the soil up against the roots. Now, you remember the gravel that we put in the first grow bag. What we don't want to do yet is to get this wet down through here. So remember the gravel there. That is a summertime thing. So that's really extra water. Once everything's rooted through and it's used up all the available root space in the bag, then we're going to start using that way to water it through there. Okay, so we've been looking at grow bags, but there is another way of doing it, and you can use grow bag compost. So you can buy a grow bag and then you can actually tip it into a pot. So this is a 20-litre pot, and the grow bags are about 40 to 50 or 60 litres. So you'll get 2 or 3 pots this size out of one of those grow bags. And all I've done is I've just filled it up with compost there. And then same thing, we're just going to knock that out of the pot using fingers underneath it again. Scoop a little hole out. I've firmed that down a bit already, and then scoop the hole out for planting it in the middle, and then just pop it in there. Easy as anything. Remember to put the label on there, and then we're going to put that in a frost-free area, bright sunny position, and it's ready to go. This is a bush variety, so we won't need to put any caning up for it. So the compost that we've used in the grow bags has got about 4 weeks of fertilizer in it. So for the first 4 weeks, your plant will exist off everything that's in the grow bag. Once it's up and growing, and after 4 weeks' time, we really need to start liquid feeding with a tomato feed. And the difference between a tomato feed and other liquid feeds is that it's very high in potash, which is good for flowers and then fruit as well. And it'll help stop blossom end rot as well. So about 4 weeks' time, start feeding with this. I hope you've enjoyed this video and learned a bit about planting tomatoes. And please do have a go. It's great fun. And the taste is amazing of your own grown tomatoes. And I wish you all the success.